what I heard growing up was, you have two choices on this shelf, pleasing God or pleasing yourself. So you're either good or you're bad. And if you don't do what the group does, you're bad. If you choose to live your own life, you are selfish and you are under control of Satan. So what stopped them from writing me my own story is the fear of the outside world, of being under control by Satan, of really eternal damnation.
This is Prey versus Predator, the podcast. We are on episode 4 with the amazing Andrew Pledger, who's been telling us this story that is unbelievable and inspiring and has a lot to share with our listeners. So I would love, Andrew, to give us a quick introduction again if people have not heard episodes 1, 2, and 3. But if you have not, I would recommend please go back and listen. But give us a little introduction, Andrew.
Yeah, so for people who don't know me, my name is Andrew Pledger. I'm a survivor, digital creator, and activist. I was raised in the independent fundamental Baptist movement, a really strict sect of fundamentalist Christianity, which really focuses a lot on rules, reading the King James Version of the Bible, and really about separation from society. And I was homeschooled K through 12 and realized I was gay in my teen years, which was really horrible in that environment. And I struggled a lot navigating that and dealing with a lot of religious trauma from my past, growing up in fundamentalism. And I ended up at Bob Jones University for 3.5 years, had a lot of experiences there. And I eventually, was left that environment through excommunication. And since then, I've been speaking up online, just telling my story of just a negative impact that fundamentalism had on me and the trauma from my upbringing. And people can find me on social media, just search Andrew Pledger. And I create a lot of content on spiritual abuse, religious trauma, and fundamentalism. And I have a podcast that is out now called Surviving Bob Jones University of Christian Cults, that covers the university as a whole and all the different dynamics that are at play.
Awesome. Andrew, thank you for being back with us. Mm-hmm. We are so happy to have you. And we have questions. Amber is teasing me during the break about writing furiously. Was that the word?
Furiously writing, taking notes. Yes.
Yes, because I have so many questions. I don't want to bombard you with all of them at one time. The first thing that stands out to me as you're talking is you're saying how you're in this environment that you've been raised in, and everything's fairly consistent. So there's no like there's not a lot of inconsistencies really, and yet you keep bumping up against something that doesn't feel right, something that isn't sitting well with you, something that doesn't make sense or ring true, and yet everything that you're being told from everybody in your world is you're wrong, they're right, you're wrong, they're right, and yet you manage to start extricating yourself from this system. So what do you think it was in you that gave you the strength to trust that voice over all the other ones? Mm-hmm. Like, can you walk us through that a little bit?
Question. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was a slower process for me. And I think one of my strongest traits is intuition. And that was something that was so stuffed down growing up. Like, you do not trust yourself. There's nothing good inside of you. You cannot trust yourself. You're supposed to trust God. And really what that meant was what these leaders were really telling you, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so there were moments in my childhood where I was always curious growing up. I would ask all kinds of questions about everything, my environment all around me. But that quickly ended from a young age, because people would just get so annoyed with how many questions I would ask. And people didn't I think, questioning things.
No. It's dangerous to question, right?
Mm-hmm, it is dangerous to question that environment. And I was always such a daydreamer growing up. And that was looked down upon in that environment. And I think really looking back on my childhood, I never felt like I belonged in it. Like I tried my best to fit into it, but I never really belonged in it. And I think, I just had this natural desire of things that like they did not want. They didn't want someone who was a daydreamer. They didn't want someone who had dreams. They didn't want someone who had a strong intuition or wanted to, I guess, have a, I don't know, life of their own. But yeah, I didn't feel like I really belonged in it. And I think there were moments throughout my childhood that I did question. One of the things was the devotion my parents had to our leader growing up. It made there was something inside of me that felt wrong about that. I didn't experience the same like infatuation that I guess other people or whatever had with this leader. Everyone was so enthralled by him, but I just didn't understand it. And I felt shame for that. I felt shame for not always feeling what other people felt in this group. And, I think I remember too, like in my childhood, where I remember a member in the church praying to God to help us to be more like our pastor. And that was such a red flag to me growing up because, you're supposed to be more like Jesus, not like your pastor. So that was something that stood out to me. But I think really for the longest time, I bought into it. Like I was the best, most devoted fundamentalist kid. Like I felt better than everyone else because I followed the rules. And I learned that that was the way I could get approval, was conforming to this system of control, conforming to what my parents wanted in this fundamentalist environment. And I think for me, like to get to the point to really question that more, it wasn't until really my teen years when I was experiencing the effects of these toxic teachings of my upbringing. But I didn't see it as it then. It was, oh my gosh, I got to pray more. I got to believe more. This is an attack of Satan. This is a devil. I got to confess some sin. But when you're told to do this thing over and over to heal this or deal with this and it doesn't work, you then begin to question, like, what? Like, okay, like, what's wrong with me? Am I not truly saved? Oh, let's get saved more. But eventually it has to get to the point where you're like, there's something wrong with this system. I'm not bearing the fruit that they're saying I'm supposed to bear or whatever. I'm not having the peace and love and joy and all these things and happiness that they're talking about. And of course, in that environment, suffering was also glorified. Like suffering was something that was like a test by God. So it was, my mental health was just suffering so much. And then I think the sexuality issues that really like changed so much because my experience with sexuality didn't match what they taught. And it took me a while to figure it out. Around like 16, I think, years old. Around that time, I think, was when like I had like fully like realized my sexuality and like was thinking, are they lying to us about sexuality? Like I was told this is a choice, but I'm not choosing this. Does God still hate me because I don't choose this? Or is it God, am I still an abomination to him? So it was like, okay, they gave me these black and white answers for this, but I'm not experiencing that. There's something outside of this black and white.
Did you ever try to date women to see if it would change or?
No.
No. Okay.
Just no interest.
Not do it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. But that shows you, you knew yourself enough.
There were definitely I think like times where like I thought about dating just to like fit in.
Yeah.
Especially during my college years. During my college years, there was you like had to be engaged by at least like your junior or senior year, at least in college. And like there was so much pressure around that. Like there were moments where like I wanted to do that just to fit in, but like I never ended up doing that.
I personally am curious about this idea of mental health being a spiritual issue because I do think I wrote down when we were past talking in previous episodes. I don't know if there's a link with anxiety and being a prey, what we call prey, somebody who's open-hearted, this is a predatory system. And it wants the prey to step in line. And how maybe there is something in us as prey to be prone to anxiety because we are sensitive.
Mhm.
And because of that, we are placed into a high control environment and told that our intuition is not right or correct or even valid. And in that, being in those places as a highly sensitive person who is a prey, if anxiety is going to occur because of that. I don't know if I'm asking, I'm just kind of thinking out loud in this moment, but it was kind of interesting to me because if that is the fallout from being a prey, being highly sensitive, being in these high coercive controlled environments, anxiety is going to happen.
Mhm.
There's this whole thing about body keeps the score, right? It's our body, it's our mind telling us something's not right. Anyone want to speak to that? I thought that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, this environment, you literally have to be perfect. Like, you have to look right, have the right kind of clothes, have the right kind of interests, have the right kind of desires, have the right kind of thoughts. And like they talked about that a lot, your thought life. I remember in teen Sunday school, how was your thought life this week? Like, what were your thoughts? Yeah, like gosh, the things I remember when I do interviews. Yeah, thought life was something I heard a lot in teen Sunday school. And for me, and it's something too that I struggle with is like, I think I mentioned in an earlier part that I was definitely more prone to anxiety, definitely more sensitive, and like was shamed for that too. And
Yeah.
it's hard because
Yeah.
I know I had a different experience in my family because of those tendencies, I think. And also in conjunction with my sexuality, I think also navigating that. I don't think my brothers had the same experience as me, the trauma from it. And I would also argue I tried so much harder than them. I was more devout than them, trying to be the perfect, in air quotes, fundamentalist Christian. And it just, and really like the root of perfectionism, it's shame.
Yeah.
It is shame. It's what are people thinking of me? What would they think if I don't align or do this? And like, that's how my parents were. Like, they were so worried about looking like the perfect family. And people told us we were the perfect family at times and in church, and how happy we all seemed. And my parents were so proud of that. They wanted people to think they were the perfect family, but they didn't really care what was really going on or what we were feeling or what any of us were experiencing. And yeah, I mean, it does produce anxiety because you're constantly self-monitoring, like down to your own thoughts and feelings. And if it doesn't align with what they want, you have to like force a different feeling or just feel shame about a feeling that you're having and just pray it away.
Yeah, I just want to affirm something that you said a couple of minutes ago. You said that you couldn't understand why you were doing all these things, but you weren't experiencing any of the fruit. You like the peace, kindness, gentleness. Like, and I remember a long time ago, someone said to me, if you're curious as to whether something is legit or not, you look to the fruit. It is what I'm doing producing the sort of fruit that you're looking for. And if it's not legit. So I just want to affirm that idea because I believe that that's truth. So way to go, Andrew.
So I have a question. I have the word rebirth written on my paper to remind me something that you had said in the third episode. So I'm envisioning you as this young man who has just kind of begun his journey on deconstructing his faith, which means all of a sudden all that curiosity that was shut up and shut down in you for all those years is now, I'm picturing this flood of curiosity. But in order to stay curious, you have to now challenge everything you've been told, everything you believe, every relationship that is grounded in the fact that you are not going to be accepted into it unless you agree. and now you're not necessarily agreeing. So you're rebirthing yourself at 20 something years old. What is that? Can you walk us through that process a little bit in terms of what was that like and where are you in that journey now?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I would describe that journey as like, my parents had written out my entire life for me, my life story. They wrote it all out, and I ripped up the pages, and I took the pen and I took the paper, and I'm like, I'm going to write my own story. I'm going to have my own life that I want going forward. And it was a hard place to get to that point. But I think one of the hardest things I realized during my time at Bob Jones University was I conformed to all of this because that was the only way I could get love and accepted. And no one really loves me for me. And then I'm like, who am I? Who am I without this?
Right.
And that was a question I kept asking myself.
I said it's a terrifying question, isn't it?
It is so terrifying. And this is how they keep a lot of people like trapped in these high control environments is they stifle your growth, your sense of self, your ability to form an identity. You're not supposed to follow your own desires. You're not supposed to have your plans or your own ambitions. You're not allowed to experience certain emotions. You're supposed to control, have like in air quotes, the right thoughts. Every aspect of your humanity is controlled. And there's such a strong fear of like, if you do not have this system or these things controlling you, you're going to go crazy. Like evil is going to be unleashed. There's such a fear of what lies inside of you if you do not have all these restraints and have all these things in place to do that. And
except for the people in charge. I would have to add that, the fear, all that stuff inside of you, except for the people that are controlling everything. They trust themselves instinctually. But go on. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. Like and that's the thing. A lot of these leaders, they abuse that power that they have because they claim to be more spiritual or higher, or put into authority by God or whatever. But yeah, so with my journey with that, it was like a strong internal struggle because I'm fighting the indoctrination of my just entire life and like questioning authority. I was frightened of that. I was taught you can't go against authority. Like you're going to be harmed if you disobey authority and make your own decisions. Like God always puts these levels of authority to protect you from all these different things. And I think it got to the point where I think I mentioned my story that, I had to explore outside of that world of, they're telling me this is love, but this doesn't feel like love. They tell me that there's no love outside of this at all. This is the real deal. It doesn't get better than this, but I'm experiencing this as horrible, as harmful. And I can't tell anyone about this anyway. So I think, for me, it had to like take that step of courage to step out of that. And that was a really hard thing for me to do. And that's when I met that family and who did not believe what I grew up in and really made me question like, oh my gosh, like these are the most kind, loving people I've ever met. And yet, according to my upbringing, they do not have the Holy Spirit. They do not have God on their lives, but yet they have that ability inside of them. And it gave me a sense of hope, I think, that, oh my gosh, it is possible to go outside the system. And I think slowly trying to really get to know myself really through journaling of like, what do I really want? Not what these people are telling me. And, one of those things was just community. And I think, and the thing is though, one of the hardest things about claiming your identity is when that identity doesn't align with what your parents or your family or what other people want and taking that risk. And, to me, I knew that I either had to live the life that I wanted, even if I didn't 100% know what that was going to look like all the way through, even if I knew just the inkling of it. But it's like, it was either I have my own life or I just I die in this system. Like it was, to me, it was like, I'm going to die of suicide in this environment if I don't, like I was saving my life,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you chose to live. Yeah.
Mm.
So much courage that it takes to do that. When you had talked about your family a little bit and said, it's been a couple of years since you've made this decision to really start living your own life. And when you do that, that means that not everybody in your world and in your life is going to come with you or agree with you or be on the same page as you. What have the challenges been in your family? And what do you think holds them back from being able to really let you write your own story?
It's definitely been, it hasn't been really like easy to do that. I knew that once I did this, I would lose a lot of people in my life. And, I was surprised my parents did want to stay a part of that. But it has been complicated navigating that relationship with them. And I did set boundaries of like, you can't talk to religion about me. You can't send me sermons. You can't send me Bible verses. You can't force any of this. Basically saying like, this has really harmed me in a lot of ways. And, I'm going on my own healing journey to deal with this and really live the life that I want. Cause like for me, like I'm like, I can't live the rest of my life pretending of people pleasing the rest of my life. I was a major people pleaser growing up. So part of that, again, I think identity was learning to recognize my own needs and emotions. Like that was like unheard of in fundamentalism growing up. Like you didn't have needs growing up, like psychological, emotional needs at all. Sorry, remind me of your question again, because I feel like I'm getting off track.
Well, I'm just curious as to like, it took a lot of courage to start, getting away from the old doctrines and the way of living. And I'm just by the little bit that you've been sharing about your family and some of the friendships, you would have had to risk losing them. And what is it? What do you think that makes it really difficult for them to let you write your own story? Like, what stops them from letting you? They got to write their story, and their story is this, high control religion. You're not allowed to write your own story. So what holds them back? Like, what is the thinking that stops them from letting you write yours, do you think?
Yeah, I think what stops them from letting me write my own story is, number one, the belief that they have the absolute truth and everyone else is wrong.
Right.
And it kind of goes back to the Garden of Eden, honestly. Like, think about like with them making that choice of having knowledge and living outside of, what they were told. They chose knowledge over ignorance in the Garden of Eden. And that's seen as dangerous, like choosing and having a free will, like choosing your own life, what you want to do, that is seen as satanic. Like that's of Satan. Satan, what I heard growing up was, you have two choices on this shelf: pleasing God or pleasing yourself. So you're either good or you're bad. And if you don't do what the group does, you're bad. If you choose to live your own life, you are selfish and you're under control of Satan. So what stopped them from writing me my own story is the fear of the outside world, of being under control by Satan, of really eternal damnation, honestly. My entire life, they try to protect me from all these things. But a lot of the teachings I was brought up in really caused a lot of harm, and I didn't see it as much of a life at all. And so, so it's the fear of eternal damnation, the fear of making one wrong decision that will ruin you the rest of your life. That one drink you take of alcohol, you're going to turn to an alcoholic. When you have sex the first time, you're going to get an STD, or like something terrible is going to happen. And one wrong mistake or decision could ruin the rest of your life.
Mm.
And so there was such a fear around that.
Especially at a young age, probably as well. Like you're taught this from a young age. So how could they not control you? Like looking back, it's easy to go, well, that's a bit ridiculous. But it's not if you're raised in that. If you're primed to believe this.
So
Yeah.
Essentially, like what I hear you saying is your parents have never had the courage that you had. They haven't ever risked trusting themselves or believing their own thoughts or questioning or having curiosity about what is outside of this very small bubble.
Yeah. I mean, in their eyes, it's just completely evil and awful on the outside. That's how they see it. And they're safe and protected in this bubble. I think that's how they feel about it.
So what have you learned about yourself since you left in these last couple of years?
Yeah. Wow. I've been in therapy, almost 2 years now. And I think really what I've learned really since leaving is number one, that I am like a highly sensitive person. I love that, you had mentioned that earlier. And how like I had tried to fit myself in like a neurotypical kind of world, trying to do what everyone else was doing. And I think also like learning that my desires are not evil. I am human. I have needs. And I think for me, learning that it is okay to make decisions and make mistakes. Like usually they're not completely life altering unless, you do the stupidest thing on purpose. But, and when it comes to like my healing journey, like I've learned so much about like, oh my gosh, like relationship patterns that I've been in the past, situations that I'm drawn to, starting to get to the root of like some of my anxiety around things, healing my own trauma. And this is the interesting thing, like as you process things in therapy, I'm learning that my story is going to shift and change. That is something that has been really eye-opening to me. Like my story will not stay stagnant. Like, yes, the details are like the same, but like my view or perspective on it will change as I continue to heal. And I think another thing is like no one has the same exact experience in a group or even in a family. And I think that's something else, because I think for so long I felt like, I don't know, like I was crazy or something was wrong with me because like I had this experience but other people didn't. And there were some people maybe I did that had similar experience but others didn't too. And they're just learning to see the gray, I guess, in life and accept that people can have different experiences and these groups and both are valid. And both should definitely be listened to.
Smart.
I think you've repeated a few times, like, there's something wrong with me. And I know even for myself, that was a familiar refrain in my head because it was said a lot in these high control environments.
Yeah.
Yes, it talks about, we're born into this world, sinful and all that. But there's also people in these environments who want to control you. And if you are sensitive or a little different or have ideas or don't want to fall in line or have too many questions, the answer always is, what's wrong with you? Why can't you? What's wrong with you? Why can't you? What's wrong with you? Like it's a choice. And I just think it's so interesting that we automatically internalize that. There's something wrong with me. And there's so much freedom when you can finally go, there is nothing wrong with me. There is nothing wrong with it. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean I can't make mistakes. Doesn't mean I don't need to say sorry sometimes to somebody if I hurt their feelings. But there is nothing wrong with me. That's just being human. So thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people can relate to it. Doesn't matter what environment you grew up in.
Yeah.
If you grow in somewhat of a coercive, controlled system or family or whatever, you can go, oh, I know that feeling. I can relate to it.
PJ, last question goes to you.
Oh, last question goes to me. Oh, boy. I'm looking over all the questions. I think what I would like to explore a little bit in your story is the word curiosity came up a lot. And I think it's very interesting. I would like to just hear you talk a little bit about both how your curiosity was a danger to the environment that you were in, and maybe like it was a curse in the environment that you were in. Do not ask too many questions, probably because we don't have the answers, but now your curiosity is life-giving. So it's the same thing, just different environments. But can you speak to that a little bit? This thing that was bad and ugly is now the thing bringing you life.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that environment, curiosity cannot thrive in an environment with black and white answers. It cannot thrive in that. And so I think I learned to really shut that down from an early age. But like when it did come out, like I remember an instance in my childhood where it was kind of like a family vacation trip, basically kind of across the US. And we were headed to the Grand Canyon. That was like the final destination. And we were at the like petrified forest. And I remember like asking all these questions because like, these things had been like formed long, like, it had to take longer than those like 6,000 to 10,000 years that I was taught growing up. And so I think my curiosity, like it got me shamed a lot growing up. I felt shame for not just immediately at first conforming. And so I remember my dad getting so angry at me just for asking questions in this museum, just about like all these different dates on things, or, oh, did this really happen that long ago? He's like, you need to read your Bible. You need to read your Bible. Like you need to get in your Bible. Oh, so like I was bad for asking this question. I wasn't spiritual, or I didn't know my Bible enough. I should have easily been able to just dismiss that in my mind. I shouldn't have been able to ask a question about that. So I think the shame that came with it, and me not being able to express that to my parents, really caused a lot of pain and a lot of, I guess, fear if I did ask questions about things. And I think the life-giving part of it was I had the ability to like think of a life that could be, think of a life that I could have, that maybe this wasn't the only way.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. And thank you for joining us on our own journeys.
And telling us your story, honestly. I think it's important for us to be reminded that there is power in telling our stories. And you are owning your story now, no matter what's been done to you.
Well, I think when you tell your story, you connect with other people who tell their story, and it gives other people permission to be okay not being okay. Especially in coercive control environments. And we're so happy that you're on this journey toward freedom and away from control. And we celebrate Pray, who are powerful. So thank you for being a hashtag Pray Power.
The word that comes to me is redemptive. It's a very redemptive story you tell.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I've enjoyed this and really telling my story in depth. And I guess, could I have a second to maybe speak to survivors maybe in this maybe similar situation? How much longer do we have?
No, keep going.
Keep going.
Okay, got you. Yeah, so I think I would definitely say to survivors in maybe like a similar situation, it's not easy getting out of these situations. There will be pain, there will be mental struggles. It's just a trauma that comes with it. It's not the curse that they're telling you about or the harm from Satan or whatever. They try to control how you view yourself so they can get you back into the group. But there is hope, there is healing on the outside. And you can live a better life. You deserve to be authentic, to be able to be honest, to be loved for who you are, to live the life that you want. And there is a community out there that will love and embrace every part of you.
That's beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Andrew.
And please
of
reach
course.
out to Andrew. Maybe you want to give out your social way people can get in touch with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my handle on social media is Andrew Pledger, but the A is a 4 because someone else had Andrew Pledger already. So I just put a 4 for the letter A. But yeah, I'm on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. And people can reach me on social media and see the work that I'm doing and my podcast, Surviving Bob Jones University. And then, I'll have a new podcast called Beyond BJU to continue those stories.
Excellent. Thank you,
Awesome.
Andrew.
Thanks so much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you all so much for having me on.
Our pleasure.